In 1990, the Boeing 747 owned the skies. 542 of them in service. 1 in 4 wide-body flights on Earth was a 747. Airlines built their entire international networks around it. It was the most recognized airplane ever built. Passengers called it the Queen of the Skies. By 2023, Boeing built the very last one. Most people think they know why. Fuel costs, the pandemic, competition from Airbus, they're all wrong. The 747 was killed by a single airplane, and that airplane was built by Boeing themselves. To understand how Boeing killed its own most iconic plane, you need to go back to 1966. Pan Am's chief executive Juan Trippe walked into Boeing with a request most engineers thought was insane. Build me a plane 2.5 times bigger than the 707. Boeing had never built anything like it. They didn't even have a factory large enough to assemble it. So they built one. The Everett plant, still the largest building on Earth by volume, was constructed specifically for the 747. The pressure was enormous. Boeing borrowed over $2 billion. Their debt exceeded their entire net worth. Chief Executive Bill Allen later said, "It was really too large a project for us." The engineers who pulled it off in just 28 months were called the Incredibles. And it worked. January the 22nd, 1970. Pan Am's first 747 lifted off from New York to London. It carried nearly 400 passengers, nothing like it had ever flown before. Airlines realized immediately that a plane this big had to cut ticket prices to fill the seats. International travel was suddenly affordable for the middle class. The 747 didn't just change aviation, it changed the world. Through the 1970s and 1980s, the 747 was everywhere. London to New York, Tokyo to Los Angeles, Sydney to London, Qantas, Lufthansa, British Airways, Japan Airlines, Singapore Airlines. The 747 was the backbone of global aviation. Boeing kept improving it. The 747-200 with longer range, the 747-300 with a stretched upper deck, the 747-400 in 1989, the definitive version. Winglets, a 2-person cockpit, range that could connect almost any 2 cities on Earth nonstop. Boeing sold nearly 700 of the 400 variant alone. By 1990, 542 passenger 747s, 28% of the entire world's wide-body fleet. Then Boeing built something that would destroy it. In 1994, Boeing launched the 777. 2 engines, same number of passengers as the 747 on most routes, and dramatically lower operating costs. Here's why that mattered so much. For decades, there was a simple rule in aviation. Twin-engine planes couldn't fly more than 60 minutes from the nearest airport. If one engine fails over the ocean, you need to be close enough to land. That's why the 747 needed 4 engines. Not for performance, for legal reasons. But engines kept getting more reliable. In 1985, the FAA changed the rules. Twin-engine planes could now fly transatlantic, then trans-Pacific. By the mid-1990s, a twin-engine plane could legally fly anywhere on Earth that a 4-engine plane could. Think about what that actually means. Every route the 747 had ever flown, every ocean crossing, every trans-Pacific marathon, every long-haul route connecting continents was now legally open to a twin-engine airplane. The legal barrier that had protected 4-engine jets for decades was gone overnight, and the Boeing 777 was ready. The most advanced variant, the 777-300ER, was powered by GE90 engines producing more thrust than the 747's 4 engines combined, using nearly 50% less fuel per hour on long-haul routes, half the maintenance cost, 2 engines instead of 4. One famous aviation analyst summed it up perfectly. The biggest enemy of Boeing 4-engine planes was Boeing twin-engine planes. Airlines did the math immediately. Why pay to operate 4 engines when 2 could do the same job for half the cost? Orders for the 777 exploded. Orders for the 747 collapsed. Then came the 787 Dreamliner in 2011. Composite materials, even more fuel efficient. 2 engines. For medium long-haul routes, the 787 did everything the 747 did at a fraction of the operating cost. Boeing's own planes were doing most of the damage, but Airbus wasn't standing still either. The A330 and later the A350 took routes the 747 once owned. From every direction, Boeing twins, Airbus twins, the 747 was being squeezed out. The numbers tell the story. In 1990, 542 747 passenger jets, 28% of the world's wide-body fleet. By 2019, just over 130 in passenger service, down from over 500 to just 130 in under 30 years. United retired theirs, Delta retired theirs. Then COVID hit, when airlines were forced to ground their fleets overnight in 2020. The planes that got parked first and retired fastest were the most expensive to operate. British Airways retired their entire 747 fleet in a single announcement. Qantas did the same. KLM, all gone. The pandemic didn't kill the 747. It just finished a job that was already almost done. December the 6th, 2022, the last Boeing 747 rolled off the production line. 54 years of production, 1,574 aircraft built, delivered to cargo carrier Atlas Air on January the 31st, 2023. The Queen of the Skies was gone. Here is what most people miss. The 747 wasn't beaten by a competitor. The A380 was too big and failed. Nothing from Airbus directly replaced it. The 747 was made obsolete by Boeing's own planes. The 777 took its long-haul routes. The 787 took its medium-haul routes. Boeing built two twin-engine jets, so efficient and capable that their own most iconic plane became economically obsolete. Boeing didn't kill the 747 because they wanted to. They killed it because they kept building better planes, and eventually there was nothing left for the 747 to do. 1,574 aircraft, 54 years, billions of passengers carried across every ocean on Earth. The 747 didn't die because it was bad. Passengers loved it. Pilots loved flying it. Some cargo operators are still flying it today and will be for years. It died because Boeing got better, and in aviation, when something better comes along, nothing survives on legacy alone. Not even the Queen of the Skies. The plane that replaced the 747, the Boeing 777, is now facing the exact same problem. For decades, the 777 was untouchable. The most delivered wide-body in aviation history, the most powerful commercial engines ever built. Airlines couldn't get enough of them. At its peak, it was flying every major long-haul route on Earth. London to Singapore, New York to Dubai, Sydney to Dallas. Nobody thought anything could replace it. But today, airlines are quietly retiring it, replacing it with something newer, lighter, and more efficient. History is repeating itself, and Boeing is once again the one pulling the trigger on its own iconic plane. That story is even more dramatic than this one. Subscribe so you don't miss it.